Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of the Sober Orange Couch, episode 8 Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. I'm happy to be back here, another day sober and better than ever. And got a fun little start off tonight into a pretty deep topic. But sex, drugs, and rock and roll, when you look at all the celebrities out there who are now coming out and being more open and honest about their sobriety. And I just rewatched Rocket Man, and for those of you who don't know, that's a fantastic movie about Elton John. I was never a big Elton John fan per se, but his movie, or the movie about his life, was very, very interesting. And the movie starts off with, him being raised and how he was raised as a child. His, parents split up, and although I can't compare my life to his, but what I can compare is the progressiveness, because as he starts through his journey, he's only drinking, he's only, just being normal, or for what it seems like is normal. And as the years progressed, he just kept drinking and drinking to a point where he would wake up and drink. If something happened, he had to drink. If something went awry, he drank. If something was good, he drank. If he was performing, he drank. He literally could not function without drinking. And to so many of us, that's such a normalcy, because we drink because we function that way. It's how our minds have been operating. It's how we learned to operate. For myself, it was 24 years of operating that way, that if I didn't have a drink, something was wrong. So I had to have a drink. And going into recovery and getting help, one of the biggest topics that was hard for me was focusing on the solution too much, focusing on the end. When I first started getting help, you're always like, okay, I'm here, I'm sober. What do I, how do I stay sober? I'm going to stay sober. And we think, okay, I'm going to stay sober for 20 years, 30 years. Oh, I'm going to stay sober for, until Christmas. And I was so focused on the end result that it never worked. Because staying sober is literally a one day at a time thing. We try to jump from step one to the very end, and you just can't. And one day at a time. That's really what it takes. But in coming up with this topic, it brought back memories of lies and deceit. And, the lies I told my family, the lies I told my wife, the lies I told my kids, the lies I told myself, they were horrible. And only I was living with those. I wasn't talking about them. I was solely focused on the next drink and making sure that nobody knew all the bad stuff that was going on around me. And through this whole process, it's just now becoming apparent how much harm that we as alcoholics can cause. And we don't think about that. I sure as hell wasn't thinking about it. The lies and deceit. And, I always would tell myself that as long as I wasn't lying, that it was okay. And let me fill you in on what I mean by that. As long as I wasn't telling a full lie, so what someone called a white lie, but even then I wasn't considering it a white lie, it was okay. If I said I wasn't drinking, in my head it was I wasn't drinking the past hour. And, little things like, did you, my wife would always ask if I helped her with something, and I would say, oh, yeah, I did it. And in the back of my head, I'm saying, I did it. No, scratch that. Simple things like in the office where I was supposed to make a phone call and I just obviously forgot. I didn't write it down. I didn't give a shit. I didn't care. And I'd be asked, did you call so-and-so? And remembering that I forgot to do that, I would say, yes. And then in the back of my head, I'm telling myself without anybody hearing is, I will call them. And I created this deceitfulness that grew into an epidemic that surrounded my marriage, and eventually my kids, because there were days where I just wanted the kids to go to bed so that I could continue drinking peacefully. And it's a really fucked up thing to say, but I'm ashamed of it. But I'm trying to come to terms with that now. We would have the kids on a strict bedtime. It was, hey, you got to be in bed 7:30 at the time, because they were much younger, and half the time they would ask me to lay with them, and I would lay with them, and I'd pass out. And my wife would come up and wake me up, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, my eyes were shut. I wasn't sleeping. I was just keeping them company. Not to tell the truth that I was drunk and passed the fuck out. And it was so careless. It was so, it's horrifying to think about. That's how I was acting, just so that I don't even recall what drinking all the time was even worth. I don't remember how fun it was. Every now and then I still reminisce about, having that first drink and, oh, how good it tastes. But thankfully I'm in a place where I know what happens when I take the first drink. It just turns to chaos after that. And as much chaos as I've caused with my kids and my wife and my family and my work, it's not worth it. There's people out there who are struggling with similar things, who can't relate, but we can all agree on one thing, that we are powerless over alcohol. My life had become unmanageable, but I was lying my way through it. And as the lies kept stacking on top of each other, it just became too large a weight to hold. And it almost seems like as those lies stacked on top and it became too much to bear, the worse I got with the drinking and how I was acting, how I was treating my wife, how I was treating the kids, to not so much go away, but like I was saying before, go to bed early so that I can spend more time in peace and quiet and having my drinks, to where it's a normal time to be drinking, because mind you, I was probably on beer number 20 at that point. And the chaos became normal, and it's a horrible way to live. And as the chaos grew and the normalcy grew around that chaos, I hit those peaks. And it almost as if, like, every time I peaked, I came crashing down, and that's when I had somebody tell me I needed help. My wife told me I needed help. My parents said I needed help, that maybe I should just stop drinking. Maybe you're not an alcoholic, or on the other spectrum, that you need to go to rehab. And there was such a horrible notion around all those things at the time, that how can I stop drinking? I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have a problem. And I lied my way through that too, because in the back of my mind, I knew I wasn't an alcoholic. I'm not like those people. I'm not anything like them. I looked for the differences besides the similarities, which so many of us do. We don't look for the similarities while listening to others who have even a couple days of sobriety under their belt. So as those times go on, I was able to lie and deceit my way into drinking again. And it was a combination of, yeah, I was miserable because I wasn't drinking, but also because I wasn't an alcoholic at the time. I wasn't considering myself that. It wasn't even in the realm. I got help. I'm better. I understand what not to do. That's what rehab taught me, right? What not to do. And sure enough, I'd go back up the mountain, back up that mountain, climbing the cliffs to glory. And then I peaked and I'd come crashing down. Some new incident that I didn't foresee coming, and I let the alcohol get the best of me. And those peaks became like a mountain range. The ups, the downs, to where you just get tired of it. And I will be making my amends appropriately coming up here in some time. And thinking about it sucks because I really do have to go through the past and remember all the horrible things I did. But while thinking about those horrible things, the funny part is you do get some good memories that creep up there. Oh, but I was so good this day. I only had a couple drinks. And for whatever reason, the mind likes to think that, oh, well, maybe, just maybe, we're not an alcoholic. But again, for me, it's just not the case. It's just, that is my mind now lying to myself, trying to convince myself that having a drink is okay. If anyone's out there and you need help, or you think you have a problem, or you just don't know where to start, reach out to somebody. Reach out to me. That's why I'm doing this. One person, that's all it takes is to help one person. And you don't know how big of an impact that really has on us. But if you need help, don't be afraid to talk, because it's the biggest thing about this program, about getting sober, no matter what program you're working. Getting sober takes a village. It starts within, and then it grows. And eventually, the day by day gets so easy and so worth it, because we're better than this.